Hello everyone, this is Jeremy Bell at Sensix, and this is going to be a quick tutorial on using OSVR Unreal in Unreal Engine 4.12. Now 4.12 just came out, and with it comes built-in support for OSVR, and so I'm going to show you how to set that up. So first of all, before you get started, you're going to want to install the OSVR runtime, or actually the OSVR SDK. And that's going to give you, depending on whether you have the 32 or 64-bit version, in Program Files OSVR Runtime Bin. Now, after you've set up your configuration to your current HMD, so if you have the HDK, that's usually the default configuration already comes with, you can go ahead and start the OSVR server. And I've already started it here. Now you're going to want to do that before starting the editor, and the reason why that is that the editor will detect whether or not OSVR is running at the beginning, and if so, it shows up as VR supported. If you don't do that, what will happen is from this playlist you'll see that the VR preview mode will be grayed out. So the first thing you're going to want to do, I've already set this up, but before you start your new project, you're going to want to go down to the Virtual Reality tab in Plugins. So that's Edit, Plugins, and then underneath Built-in in Virtual Reality, there will be an OSVR plugin right here. By default, that's going to be disabled because it's a preview version of the plugin. So what you're going to want to do is go ahead and check that, and it'll ask you to restart the editor. And once you do that, I've already done that here, and make sure that the server is still running. You should have a VR preview mode highlighted here. If not, it'll be grayed out. So it looks like it's working okay for me. So the thing about OSVR in Unreal 4.12 is that, and before that even, it uses the standard interfaces for the HMD and for the motion controllers. So you don't necessarily need to have any specific OSVR programming. It's just a standard plugin. So anything that you use for Rift or for the HTC Vive, it's going to work the same way with OSVR. No changes necessary. And this is actually here, I'm showing you the default first-person template. And that's a good template, I think, to start for VR, and I'll show you why in a couple seconds here. So the reason why this is a good thing to start with is that it has, and I've chosen the Blueprint version. You can choose either Blueprint or C++ version of this template. I've got the Blueprint version up here. The reason why this is good is that it already has a first-person character set up. If you open that up and look on the left here, I'm going to put that full screen. You'll see that it already has a character pawn set up for the game mode, as well as some meshes that are already tied into the motion controllers. So if you hadn't had this set up, or if you're doing this in your own game, you're going to want to go to Add Component and search for Motion Controller. And then when you do that, that's what these two here are. I'm not going to do that now, but I'm just going to look at the existing ones. So here's the right motion controller. It looks like there's a left motion controller as well. And then in here you've got, underneath motion controller, you've got right, left, and pad. So you're going to want to do either left or right, and that's going to be what OSVR supports. Player index is going to be 0 all the time for OSVR. So that's pretty much it. So whatever comes underneath this node in your scene, underneath your character component, is going to be tied to that right hand. So in this case, you've got the VR gun and the marker. So that will be tied to the right hand. And so that's all you have to do. This is just a standard template, so it's pretty easy to get started with OSVR and Unreal. Alright, we're going to go ahead and close this and give it a try. Now, I don't have motion controller set up on my machine right at this moment, so I won't be able to show you that, but you should see when you start the VR preview mode a preview in stereo. Now, this is the undistorted stereo image prior to rendering on the HMD. And so when you look at the HMD, which you can't see on the screen right now because it's in direct mode, it will be rendered using distortion correction, time warp, and everything else that's supported in the OSVR Render Manager. So you get both the preview on the main screen and in the HMD within the editor. So that's kind of nice. Let's go ahead and exit out of there. And that is pretty much it. The other support that we have, not just the motion controller tracking, but also the buttons. So we support the interfaces for the standard 360 style controller as well as the motion controller button interface that Unreal supports. So either one. So if you have a standard game that you are upgrading to add VR support to, and you use the 360 controller style blueprint events for those in Unreal, those will work with OSVR if you have an OSVR plugin for that controller or for the motion controllers. So for example, they work just right with the Razer Hydra controllers because OSVR supports those. So that's pretty much it. It's pretty easy to set up. The one thing that I'd like to show you before we go, if you would like to try out the latest version of the OSVR Unreal plugin, you can do that, but you have to build it from source. So what you're going to do first is go ahead and uncheck this, and then follow the directions on the OSVR Unreal directory site on GitHub. That's github.com/osvr/osvr-unreal. There's some instructions here for setting up the project with a local plugin. And now this will only work for a C++ project in Unreal, but you can just go ahead and add a dummy C++ file into your project and that will work just fine. So that's all you need to do. Disable the built-in plugin and then add the OSVR plugin from source using these directions here. So there you go. Like I said, a lot easier to work with than the previous version. And keep a lookout for updates and bug fixes, anything like that coming soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.